The final chapter on JFK, Chapter 20, Finito. Segment 1, Strange Acts and Admissions.
Welcome back. This is Chapter 20, Finito, our last chapter. This segment is Strange Acts and Admissions. With respect to strange acts, that is not an admission that the person is stating that they did something wrong. But the strange act is so bizarre that prosecutors will generally use the facts of the strange act as part of their factual scenario in laying out the case against the criminal defendant. If a suspect was caught a block away from a burglary driving their vehicle with their lights out at midnight, that wouldn't prove that the suspect was involved in some type of crime, but it's a strange act, and that's how it would be admitted into evidence. Now, when we talk about admissions, that is an actual statement made by a defendant or suspect against their own interests. In this case, we have a number of strange acts and one admission, if you believe it, made by Lyndon Johnson as it relates to the Kennedy assassination. The admission involves Johnson's girlfriend of 20 plus years, Madeleine Brown. Johnson told her prior to President Kennedy's assassination that Kennedy was going to be killed in Dallas. While anyone can challenge the girlfriend's integrity, if her word is believed, Johnson's statements alone may have been sufficient to convict him of conspiracy to commit murder. How could Johnson have known about the murder in advance if he wasn't involved? Further still, even if Johnson was not directly involved in planning of the murder, his admission would have been enough to criminally charge him with being a party to the crime, since he knew in advance but did nothing. And Johnson's admission to his girlfriend before the murder certainly brings to the forefront Johnson's argument with President Kennedy concerning seating arrangements in the motorcade. Can any American imagine that someone knew about a planned murder and did nothing? If the admission is believed, how could Vice President Johnson have knowingly let this happen to our nation's leader? While that may be a direct admission, a more indirect admission or strange act is Lyndon Johnson's involvement with the Warren Commission as a witness, rather than being interviewed by his own commission, or rather than supplying some type of written statement under oath as to what he knew about the Kennedy assassination in the planning of the trip, in the events that occurred during the motorcade, or the post-shooting activities. Johnson didn't do anything except have his lawyer issue and prepare a statement relating to Johnson's knowledge of the events. And Johnson then prepared a letter to Chief Justice Earl Warren of the Warren Commission and sent Warren a letter on July 20th, 1964, on his White House stationery, stating that he really didn't have an opportunity to make any critical notes during the assassination, so his impressions and recollections aren't necessarily complete. That may be strange, but what seems even stranger, at the time the Kennedy assassination occurred, when he was in Parkland, and we've already discussed the fact that there was no reason for him to be there, what Johnson did with his wife was beyond normal. When he heard that Kennedy was dead, the first thing he did was turn to his wife, Lady Bird Johnson, and he told her, make a note of that time. And she was scribbling it down on a little notebook. No reason for that at all. And that seems, at least in my opinion, and to most other people, bizarre. Make a note of that time. And if we want to continue, while Lyndon Johnson was on the plane on Air Force One, waiting for Kennedy's casket to be loaded on the plane, he ate a bowl of soup. That does not seem normal if one is in the midst of a world crisis. That seems more in line with somebody who doesn't believe there's a crisis and is handling all of the matters coolly and calmly. And of course, when we're talking strange acts, what could be stranger for Johnson's insistence on meeting Jackie Kennedy, the widow, and her brother-in-law, the Attorney General, Robert F. Kennedy, at the White House on the morning of Sunday, November 24th, and talk to the two Kennedys about when Jackie will move out of the White House with her two children so Lyndon Johnson could move in. She hadn't even buried her husband, but he had a meeting with them wanting to know when she was going to get out. I hate to say this, but again, another strange act. I'm getting a signal that I've been talking too long, so we're going to be cutting this into 2 segments, and I'll see you in a minute in the next segment.